Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
What if I told you that those perimenopause and menopausal symptoms you're experiencing aren't just about your ovaries? They are a full metabolic transition, and the extra workload falls on the liver, the thyroid, the adrenals, the gut, and the brain. We're going to dive into it. Welcome to Accelerated Health with Sara Banta, the show where we cut through the noise, fast track your journey to real lasting health. I'm your host, Sara, certified nutritionist, founder of Accelerated Health Products. Every week, I share the science-backed supplements, detox strategies, and wellness tools that actually work so you can boost your energy, balance your hormones, feel your best on the inside and out. So I want to start out by saying I am not against HRT whatsoever. However, you need to fix the foundation, or some of those exogenous hormones can actually backfire. And we're going to dive into what is causing those symptoms that you are just so desperately trying to get out of. You feel trapped in this body with the hot flashes, the mood swings, you feel irritable, the brain fog, all the stuff. And not to mention the unexplained weight gain, right? So what is really happening? In perimenopause, you've got hormones going up and down. Estrogen does not decline smoothly. It spikes, it crashes. Progesterone drops earlier and faster than estrogen. Cortisol, that's your stress hormone. It's also a fat storing hormone, rises to compensate for the progesterone loss. Literally, your ovaries are dying. We have an organ that's dying in the body. Men don't have this. And so when that happens, other organs have to take over. And the adrenals start taking over, which means the adrenals have so much more work to do than our 18-year-old self. So the result, the symptoms feel chaotic. You're fine one month, wrecked the next month. I have a friend who says, yeah, I have to warn my whole family, my kids and my husband, that I am not stable and you better watch out. And then you get into menopause, the systemic compensation phase. So once the ovarian hormone production slows significantly, the adrenals, like I mentioned, have to contribute more hormone signaling. Fat tissue and the gut become estrogen conversion sites. Thyroid signaling becomes essential for metabolism, and most of you are suffering from that low thyroid and the low metabolism. And your doctor says, well, your TSH is normal, your T4 is normal. That's not the whole picture. Get your free T3 tested, your reverse T3 tested. Make sure you're also testing your liver and your adrenal health, your cortisol. Well, also during this time, liver clearance, that's your number one detox organ, is so important. And if it's clogged and backed up and you throw in some HRT, the liver's not going to be able to process it or use it, and it could actually make things worse. That's why it's so hard to get the exact right amount of hormones when you're taking them exogenously. You've got to address the thyroid, the liver, the adrenals, the gut, all before throwing in HRT if you choose to do that. If these systems are not supported, the symptoms don't calm down, they get worse. So why is menopause harder now than ever before? Oh, well, you might look to your grandmother. Did she have horrible hot flashes? Maybe she did, but they're probably not as bad as what you're experiencing if it's genetic. But menopause today happens in a toxic, estrogen-dominant environment, even when estrogen is technically low. So you have all of these things that we're going to talk about that mimic estrogen in the body. You've got the good estrogen and the bad estrogen. I have so many podcasts and articles talking about this. What is estradiol? What is estrone? All the different estrogens, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So estrogen does not mean that it's a good estrogen or a bad estrogen. What we're talking about here is the toxins in the environment are mimicking estrogen. That's the bad estrogen making things so much worse. Okay, I know that was confusing. Number one, we've got iodine deficiency, right? So I talk about iodine as far as the thyroid. You need that 3 and 4 for the T4 and the T3 in the iodine hormones or the thyroid hormones. But there's so much more to iodine. And iodine now is not in our soils, and we have so many other substances in our environment filling those iodine receptor sites. We need iodine for that thyroid hormone signaling, but we also need it for the estrogen receptor regulation. And we need it for healthy estrogen metabolism. No one talks about that. 96% of you are deficient in iodine. And not only do we need it during perimenopause and menopause, but our young girls need it. They need it for their hormone regulation for their PMS symptoms. They need it for their fertility. They need it for growing during that puberty stage. They need it when they're pregnant. These babies need it. Deficiency in iodine leads to a sluggish thyroid, sluggish metabolism, poor estrogen clearance. So you're not getting rid of that bad estrogen. Iodine is needed for supporting that cell membrane. It has an iodine value, an iodolipid value in the cell membrane, which is the brain of the cell that tells the cell, okay, you're safe to get rid of toxins and let's let nutrients in, right? Well, you need iodine also for that ATP in the mitochondrial health. We hear about all these longevity websites and influencers that are trying to increase ATP and mitochondria. Well, before you jump into peptides and stem cells and their drugs, all that stuff, you got to have iodine. You cannot have healthy ATP or mitochondrial health without sufficient iodine. You need iodine to cleanse the blood so the liver can do its job and get rid of the bad estrogens. So it also, if you are deficient, you're going to have higher sensitivity to the estrogen fluctuations. So as you're going through this transitional period, your symptoms are going to be worse if you have low iodine. And this is going to show up as breast tenderness, weight gain, fatigue, mood swings, brain fog. Does that sound familiar to you? Well, number two, so iodine deficiency is number one. Number two, processed and ultra-processed foods. Okay, so before 1970, we were eating real food. That's why our grandparents and our parents really didn't think about fat, carbs, proteins, all of that stuff. They weren't overweight, and they didn't have these processed foods. Now, 70% of our food is processed. I don't care if it's an organic protein, low-carb bar. That is processed. These processed foods slow the liver detox pathways. If your liver's backed up, it cannot take on the estrogens that are coming in from the environment. And even the HRT, it can make you worse, right? So you're going to have slower liver detox pathways. You're going to have gut issues, leaky gut. It's disrupting the gut bacteria that is involved in estrogen recycling. So your body's just packing in more estrogen, the bad kind, and it's recycling it through the body. You're going to have increased insulin resistance, which is the cornerstone of all disease, and it's going to drive estrogen recirculation instead of getting it out of the body. This keeps estrogen signaling high, even when estrogen production is low. That's why it doesn't make sense. Wait a second. If my hormones are going down and my estrogen's going down, how can I have estrogen dominance? Well, your progesterone is low compared to your good estrogen. What we're talking about here are the bad estrogens that are completely creating havoc in the body. And on top of that, you've got number 3, endocrine disruptors, the plastics, pesticides, chemicals. Oh my goodness. It's so hard to get away from them. You know, when you travel, you don't know what they're spraying on these hotel buildings. You've got plastics even on organic foods. These things mimic estrogens at the receptor sites. They block progesterone signaling, right? So the estrogen dominance isn't necessarily just high estrogen. It is the ratio of estrogen to progesterone. This also, in these plastics, these endocrine disruptors interfere with your thyroid function. If your thyroid is not working, it is the master endocrine gland, okay? So it's controlling your adrenals, your testes in men, the ovaries, the pituitary, everything in your brain. It is the master endocrine gland. It is, if it's sluggish, everything's sluggish. The wheels fall off. You're constipated. You're puffy. You have brain fog. Your adrenals are just totally tapped out. And by the way, guess what? When your adrenals take over and the ovaries die, guess what? The adrenals use more iodine and salt than ever before. So they're using those little stores of iodine, which you're most likely deficient in anyways. So then there's not enough iodine for the thyroid. So you're even worse. You're feeling worse, unexplained weight gain. You can't burn that fat. I don't care how many hours of Orange Theory you're doing or how many steps you're getting from your Oura Ring. Your Oura Ring's telling you you're doing a great job, but you don't feel it, right? Well, this is also going to increase the estrogenic burden without increasing usable hormones. These compounds, these endocrine disruptors, the microplastics, everything act like fake estrogen, completely confusing the system. Then you throw in the heavy metals, environmental toxins. They overload the liver's detox pathways. They impair the thyroid hormone conversion. Remember how I mentioned T4 and TSH don't tell the whole story. T3 is your metabolism, and T4 is inactive. It converts into T3 in the liver. If your liver's backed up, it can't do it. When my liver was overloaded, all of my hormones were in the tank, including my thyroid hormones. My testosterone, my estrogen, progesterone, all in the tank when my liver was overloaded. Clear it without HRT, all of those hormones came back online. My thyroid started working again. My estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, all in a healthy spot. I feel great. 50 years old. I feel better than I did when I was 20. So these heavy metals, which I was off the charts in my 20s, in aluminum, mercury, all of those, all of them increase oxidative stress and inflammation, including the brain fog. You feel inflamed all over your body. They compete with estrogen for that detox capacity in the liver, right? So estrogen and heavy metals use the same detox pathways. When those are overwhelmed, estrogen dominance gets worse. And then perimenopause and menopausal symptoms are not caused by failing ovaries. They're caused by the overloaded detox pathways, the impaired thyroid signaling, chronic adrenal stress. Who's not stressed right now? Excess estrogenic inputs, and then the toxins, right? So what happens when you have functional estrogen dominance? Hot flashes, weight gain, mood instability, breast tenderness, brain fog. I have some young girls that are getting a lot of breast tenderness, and they're 19, and their periods and their PMS symptoms are worse than ever. They're suffering from it at that age, right? Imagine what they'll be like when they're in perimenopause or menopause if they don't correct the situation. Now, with that, you know what's a great thing to do? Put iodine and castor oil topically on that breast tenderness and let it soak in. And it can kind of break up those cysts. It can break up fibroids, all of that great stuff. And you'll also see brain fog. Guess what the number one cause of depression and brain fog is? Iodine deficiency. And this is all not because estrogen's too high, but because clearance is impaired and you're not getting rid of the bad estrogens. So we're going to talk about the liver, thyroid, and adrenals. So the liver performs 3 essential hormonal functions. It converts active hormones into usable ones or eliminate them. It clears the estrogen metabolites safely, so it's getting rid of all the bad ones. It processes the environmental toxins that compete with those hormonal receptors. Menopause and menopause, estrogen clearance becomes more important than the estrogen levels. Poor liver function increases the estrogen dominant symptoms, and then the toxic burden worsens the hot flashes, the mood swings, the weight gain. So symptoms linked to liver overload. Okay. Breast tenderness, headaches, or migraines. When my liver is suffering, and it'll go up and down, I get this dull headache, right? Especially right here. This is the gallbladder meridian that is attached to, your gallbladder works with your liver to get rid of all the toxins. It's right there. That is my number one sign. It's time for a liver flush. Maybe up my dose of my liver care supplement to help with the headache, and also make sure that I'm cleaning up my diet so I'm not putting anything that is taxing my liver. Bloating or water retention, that could be your liver. Poor tolerance to supplements or hormones. So I'm a supplement queen. I love supplements. But if you're taking ones that are toxic, have too much mold or bacteria in them, or ingredients that are fillers or that you don't even know are in there, that could be taxing your liver. Okay, now the thyroid. Estrogen enhances thyroid hormone sensitivity at the cellular level. As estrogen fluctuates or declines, thyroid hormone signaling becomes less efficient. Cells respond less effectively to T3. Think about insulin resistance, right? The body or the cells become resistant to that message of insulin. Well, it's the same thing with your cell's response to T3. So maybe your labs look normal, but you're feeling worse because your cells are not responding to that T3 that's floating in your blood. So then the metabolism slows under stress. So you might have functional hypothyroid symptoms, but your labs are normal and the doctor says just go eat less and work out more. You're normal, right? Gosh, that is frustrating. Listen to you. Listen to your body, right? You are your best doctor. Okay, the adrenals are the emergency hormone backup. Progesterone is naturally calming, right? It's anti-stress. It helps you sleep. That's why a lot of doctors put you on progesterone or HRT. Well, cortisol production will increase to compensate as it's declining. And stress tolerance drops. So you're triggered, you are irritable, you snap at your family members. You just can't, and you can't sleep as well, and your blood sugar gets worse. You haven't changed anything. And you're like, what am I doing wrong? Adrenal overload amplifies anxiety, insomnia, fatigue, even when your labs are normal. Remember what I said about iodine? Iodine's the number one cause, or iodine deficiency is the number one cause of anxiety and depression. Well, the adrenals are sucking up is the little iodine that you're taking in to compensate for the ovaries dying, which leaves even less iodine for your thyroid. See how all this works? That's why you want to address these things before jumping into HRT. So common symptoms to know that your adrenals are just overloaded: anxiety, irritability, emotional volatility, poor sleep, early waking, brain fog, memory issues. You're not motivated. You can't get out of bed. Weight gain or resistance to that fat loss, hot flashes, night sweats, heat intolerance, hair thinning. Gosh, you guys are always messaging me about my hair's thinning and I've never had an issue before. That's a whole nother topic. And I talk about, the accelerated aminos and also the accelerated collagen peptides that are great for it. But you've got to also address your thyroid, your gut, so you're absorbing the nutrients, and your adrenal health. Skin dryness, brittle nails, increased food sensitivities, caffeine, or supplements, you're sensitive to all of that. These symptoms are signals that detoxification, thyroid signaling, adrenal resilience, neurological stability all need support. So this is where supplements come in. Obviously, clean diet. You want with your diet to stay away from oxalates and sulfur. They could be backing up your liver. Your liver is working so hard today. So some foods that you might have been okay with 10 years ago might be causing issues. Sulfur, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, they are in your DIM supplement that is supposed to help with your estrogen dominance. If that DIM supplement is making you bloated, giving you brain fog, get rid of it. Use a calcium D-glucarate if you want to bind up the bad estrogens and get them out. But get rid of that. That is full of sulfur foods, okay? So eggs, egg yolks, all onions, garlic, that's all sulfur. The oxalates, almonds, almond butter, almond milk, spinach, everything that's in your green drink or your green powder, those could be disrupting your thyroid health, your gut, your brain, and your liver. All those things you want to take out of your body to clear. So it's not just about what we're putting in with supplements, it's about what we're not putting in our body. So during these periods, symptoms rarely come from a single broken pathway. You've got to look at all of this. Hormones are not controlled by one organ: liver, thyroid, adrenals, gut, immune system, and brain. Okay, so what do? Number one, you've got to do iodine. And Acceluridine iodine is the only one I will trust because there's no fillers. It's monoatomic. It goes in the body and it's starving to attach itself to those iodine receptor sites. It is monoatomic with 200 proof alcohol that is non-GMO, organic, and that 200 proof means that it is the most absorbable. So iodine is one of the most overlooked nutrients for perimenopause and menopause. It is really important for the thyroid, but also for estrogen receptor sensitivity, helping your immune system. It's antiviral, antibacterial, and it helps with the tissue level hormone signaling. So making your cells more receptive, more sensitive, not being more resistant, right? So as estrogen and progesterone fluctuate or decline, the thyroid becomes far more sensitive to iodine. And if you don't have enough, then the thyroid signaling is sluggish, which can worsen the fatigue, the weight gain, the cold intolerance, the temperature dysregulation, all that are common menopausal complaints from you. It also plays a critical role in estrogen overstimulation at the tissue level. So by displacing the toxin halogens like bromide, fluoride, iodine is normalizing estrogen signaling rather than allowing it to become inflammatory. It is so anti-inflammatory. This is really important for symptoms like breast tenderness, fibrocystic changes, mood swings, heightened estrogen sensitivity. So you will feel so much better on the Acceluridine iodine. Now we want to address the liver, right? Estrogen dominance during these periods it's often misunderstood. It is that estrogen clearance is not working. Your body's not getting rid of those bad estrogens. That happens in the liver, right? The liver is responsible for converting the active estrogen into metabolites that can be taken out and put in the toilet, right? When liver function is compromised, then stress, nutrient deficiencies, sluggish bile flow, all of those things can cause the liver to slow down. And even those estrogen metabolites, they will recirculate instead of getting out of the body. And that's where accelerated liver care comes in. When my liver numbers were through the roof, over 700, they're supposed to be under 20. Not good. Accelerated liver care brought them down within 2.5 weeks. This supports the critical clearance process, right? Phase 1, phase 2, detoxification pathways. So you're getting more bile. When bile is like the detergent to get all the toxins out, it reduces inflammatory signaling that interferes with the hormone metabolism. Okay, number 3, methylene blue. This is such a game changer. I have so many people talking to me about how they're feeling this elevation of mood, their brain fog's clearing. It's even important for your urinary tract if you get UTIs or bladder infections. It is magical in so many ways. but it is great for menopausal symptoms. So one of the most under-recognized aspects of perimenopause and menopause is the decline in cellular energy efficiency. How much energy does each cell have? While estrogen is often discussed in terms of mood and temperature, it plays a significant role in mitochondrial function and cellular respiration. So as the estrogen goes down, you're going to have lower mitochondrial efficiency, increased oxidative stress, increased inflammation, slower ATP production. Now, first line of defense is the iodine, but second one is methylene blue. So this is why a lot of the symptoms like exhaustion, brain fog, low motivation, and reduced exercise tolerance often appear even when you're sleeping right and you're eating right and all the things, right? So methylene blue has a unique ability to increase that mitochondrial function by acting as an electron carrier within the electron transport chain. This allows the cells to produce energy more efficiently, even under conditions of hormonal stress or oxidative burden. So the accelerated methylene blue, this supports all of these symptoms by improving the quality of energy production rather than stimulating the nervous system. So you've got increased ATP production, right? That's going to help with your fatigue and your physical resilience. It's going to improve the redox balance, lower the oxidative stress, support your brain energy, right? That is really important for focus, motivation, mood stability. It also enhances cellular efficiency. So I love the methylene blue. I actually put it in my coffee in the morning. So I take my iodine first thing, right? I wait at least 12 minutes before taking anything else. And then I will take my accelerated thyroid to make sure my thyroid has support. And then I'll take my other supplements. But as I'm taking the other supplements, I'm having my coffee and I just put the methylene blue in there. Super easy. It doesn't change the taste, and it gives you that clarity, the steady energy, and you feel it at the cellular level. Now, I mentioned the accelerated thyroid. Why is this important? Your thyroid labs may be saying you're normal, but did they test the free T3? Did they test reverse T3? Make sure they're testing those. Estrogen plays a role in thyroid hormone sensitivity, right? So you could be hypothyroid even when your labs look normal and you're not able to lose weight. The brain fog, the thinning hair, the brittle nails, your eyebrows are getting thin. That is thyroid. Accelerated thyroid supports the thyroid hormone production and also gets rid of the excess water retention. So important. It works great with the accelerated iodine. Okay. You want to get rid of these toxins that we've kicked out, right? The iodine kicks out toxins. The accelerated liver care does. We need something to bind it up and get them out of the body so they're not recirculated. And that's where the accelerated cellular detox powder comes in. It just binds everything up, gets it out, helps with gut inflammation. It helps with Crohn's and colitis, all of those things. It balances out your bowels, all of that. Now, if you want an extra boost in your brain, if you want to prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and cognitive decline, and you need a little extra boost, that's where Cogniblast comes in. So it will help with the brain fog, the motivation, emotional sensitivity. I actually type faster when I'm on Cogniblast. But then I also know that as a person with both genes for Alzheimer's, both parents gave it to me. Thank you. Merry Christmas. I am taking Cogniblast to prevent that Alzheimer's. So super and great for your brain. So I love the methylene blue, the iodine, and the Cogniblast for my brain specifically. You can throw in a progesterone cream if you need it. I would recommend doing all of these before you start any peptides, any hormone therapy. You need to get the foundation, right? Perimenopause and menopause, they're not failures of the body. They're reacting to this environment we're in. unfortunately. It's worse than ever. You've got to support your liver, your thyroid, your adrenals, your gut. This is where it all happens. Thanks for tuning in. But before you leave, let me know what sparked a question in you. Did I go too fast? Did I cover too much? Did I not cover enough? Let me know if something hit home. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Join the free group coaching. Ask your question there. No reason not to. Do so today. It's a place where you get those questions answered, and you're also part of an amazing supportive community. For all of my articles, my coaching, the supplements I mentioned, you can head to sarabantahealth.com, acceleratedhealthproducts.com, and don't forget to use coupon code podcast10 on your first order. Most of you listen every week, but you haven't subscribed. Click that button below so you're notified when every new podcast is released, and you can find this episode and all the episodes of Accelerated Health with Sara Banta on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, E360, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Roku, and over 100 other different podcast channels. And remember, I'm live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Join me next time for more ways to unlock your health potential.